In this video, I'm going to talk about workaholics. In last week's video, I made a video about the importance of hard work. And so I thought it was fitting that this week I would make a video about workaholics. And the main point here is that hard work is important. It's important to put in the hard work if you want to be successful in business. But there's a healthy way to do hard work and an unhealthy way to do hard work. And the unhealthy way to do hard work is being a workaholic. And so I wanted to talk through the ideas of what that really means. Now, this is something they don't teach you in business school, and they really should. Because in business, you come across workaholics all the time. And so if you think through these ideas, you're going to be able to identify them when you meet them. So let's start by talking about what is a workaholic. What does that really mean? So a workaholic is somebody who is obsessed with work to the exclusion of everything else in their life. So it's someone who is so focused on their job that they push everything else out of their life. They push away their friends, their family, their hobbies, their leisure time, and their life becomes completely about work. Now, the important thing to realize here is that being a workaholic is a neurosis. It's very similar to an obsessive-compulsive disorder. And so what you'll find is when you meet somebody who's a workaholic, you'll identify that they have this behavior pattern. And it's almost the exact same behavior pattern every single time. This is an individual who felt unloved as a child. And it produces in them this intense desire and this intense drive to be successful. And so they turn to work. And they work. And they work, and they work, and they work. Because they think if they become successful at their career, that they'll feel worthwhile as a person. Now, the other important thing to realize here is that workaholics are almost always talented people. They're extremely good at their job, which is why this whole thing works. When you're good at your job, you have accomplishments at work and you're very skilled, and it's a very validating thing. So it's almost like a drug. It's like you press this button over and over and over again, and you use this to get a high, because every time you have this big business success, you feel good about yourself. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I can't diagnose anybody here. But I am in business, and so I can speak from my experience of how I see how workaholics can negatively impact a business. And so that's what I'm going to talk about. And it's interesting, most people at this point ask a key question here. And the question is, what is the problem with being a workaholic? I mean, aren't these people just providing for their family? They're creating value for society. So what's the big deal? Shouldn't we just give them a free pass? It's not like they're an alcoholic. It's not like they're a drug addict. And my answer to this question is that in an ironic twist of fate, workaholics actually contribute lower productivity. If they approach their job from a more healthy, well-rounded perspective, they would actually create higher levels of productivity. And that's why this matters. So what I want to do is I want to list out some of the problems that I've seen with workaholics in business. So some of the attributes you see is that you see perfectionism. You see that workaholics have trouble working with others. They'll see other people that they deem are not working as hard as them, and that creates a conflict. You see trouble delegating. Workaholics hate giving up their work. You see inefficiency. So a workaholic might love their work so much, they might take 20 hours to accomplish something that could be done in 4 hours. And you see high levels of stress in these individuals. These individuals will put so much importance on their work that it creates a lot of stress. And ultimately, you see health problems. And that's kind of the result of whenever you approach life from an unbalanced perspective, it shows up in health problems. And then you just end up missing a lot of work anyway. So I do think that this is a problem of productivity. And if we really tackled this in the business community, I think across the board we would see increased levels of productivity. But the greatest tragedy here is with workaholics themselves. They're the people who get hurt the most in all of this. Because if you push everything else out of your life other than your job, what ends up happening is you end up being lonely, unhappy, and unfulfilled. And there's an important thing you need to realize here, is that your job is not a relationship. So you might love your job, but your job is never going to love you back. And that's a very lonely thing. And I guarantee you, at some point in your career, you're going to be disappointed by your job in a major way. And so this might be something like a sudden restructuring of your business. You might have trouble in the economy that might affect your job. And so you're going to feel like the rug is pulled out from under you suddenly. And if you get all your fulfillment in life from your career as a workaholic, this is going to be devastating to you. So what I'd like to do now is flip this around and talk about the opposite of being a workaholic. So what does a well-rounded experience look like? What does a healthy approach to your job look like? So your career is just a piece of your overall life. So you have your career, but you also have relationships, and this is with your family and your friends. You also have hobbies, which are things that you do outside of work that you enjoy. You also have experiences. So this could be going out to eat at a restaurant, or going to a show, or going on a trip. So these are things that add color to your life. And finally, and most importantly, you have time to relax and rejuvenate. So this is more about looking at your job in a well-rounded perspective and approaching your job from a balanced, healthy way. And you know, I don't think this necessarily means you have to work less hours. And in my case, I love my job. I love being an accountant, and I work a lot of hours. But you don't necessarily have to reduce your hours here. This is all about perspective. So I've found that the most productive parts of my career is when I'm able to come into work feeling refreshed and rejuvenated, and being able to bring in all of these other experiences and ideas and use them as part of my job. So this is just really food for thought. I wanted to put this idea out there because not a lot of people talk about this, and I think it's important. And I realize that some of this is my opinion. Not everybody agrees with me on this in business. So I want to hear from you. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you disagree with me? Let me know down below. And if you like this video, if you found it helpful, click on the subscribe button. I release a new video every week on accounting and corporate finance, so come back and check out next week's video.